Britain's prison population, 48,000 and counting, up by a sixth this year. In tonight's out-of-court prison special, we count the cost in human and financial terms of jail, one of Britain's biggest growth industries.
Why the government's law and order emphasis means the more petty the crime, the more squalid the prison.
And as Britain's jails prepare to face the consequences of AIDS, a report from New York's Sing Sing on the hazards of an inmate epidemic.
Disease AIDS has already claimed its first prison victim. At his inquest, the assistant governor at the prison where he died declared that the prison service could not cope with AIDS victims. This week, Out of Court learnt that Brixton Jail in London will be the first prison in Britain to open a special AIDS unit.
The Deputy Director of the Prison Medical Service, Dr. Patrick Hines, told us the true dimension of AIDS in prison hasn't yet hit home. Earlier this year, Dr. Hines went to America to see what impact the disease was already having in the prison system there. He went to the AIDS unit at Sing Sing in New York. Out of Court has been there too.
There's a killer loose in Sing Sing, slowly, painfully executing inmates. The New York prison death toll, 135 in 4 years. The risk of being struck, 17 times greater inside than out. The culprit, AIDS.
I can't think of any place else that I'd rather not be than here. This is terrible.
Most of the fellows upstairs in the AIDS unit call this death row.
Okay, so you're in the This infirmary covers the entire facility. We have both maximum security inmates and medium security inmates at Sing Sing. So on this particular infirmary could be anybody. They could have committed any crime from homicide to robbery to burglary. Could be a major or a minor crime.
My legs.
You just feel weak or what?
Yeah.
But the more you use them, the stronger the muscles will get.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the tip of the iceberg that has just been diagnosed, so they expect more cases in the near future. We can hold 11, and that certainly is not the entire amount that are infected in the system.
To be isolated away from everyone, it's hard. At least the general population spends a great amount of time outside of their cells. These men spend 24 hours a day in that hospital, day in and day out. Even the strongest, the most macho person is unable to deal with having AIDS.
Well, it's affected me in many ways. It's affected me mentally as well as physically. As far as the physical aspect goes, I've lost the use of both my legs. My legs have contracted to where I can no longer use them. And they're extremely swollen. Which also has caused infections on the bottom of my feet. Because I'm unable to use my feet. They've become infected. My right arm is the same thing. And I'm a right-handed person. So I've had to learn how to do everything with the opposite hand, which has been very difficult.
As victims come to terms with their incurable disease, so the staff have come to realize that prison is a powerful incubator for AIDS, spread by the unsterile needles of jail tattooists as much as through homosexuality, but most commonly via the shared syringes of hard drug users.
You have to consider that this prison here is not that far from New York City, and a great amount of our inmates are from New York with a history of drug abuse. And they are the high-risk group.
I don't believe the number of drug-involved incidents in the prison has decreased. I would say there's a little more caution, a little less usage of sharing needles.
The next highest group are your homosexuals. And you must remember that because of the nature of confinement, there is prison homosexuality that's going on. Security would be able to tell you the figures and how many people are interrogated and locked up for homosexual acts. But there is still a lot, I would say maybe 25% of the population who indulge in homosexual relationships.
Is it sex with consent or without?
Consent. I basically say it's through consent. You know, all them gang rapes, that's something that happened 15, 20 years ago.
Drugs are not allowed. Tattooing is not allowed. Homosexuality is not allowed. But those things do happen. You know, these are men that are locked up, and if they can find a way to release themselves in an unacceptable manner to us, they do it.
I had this done the early 80s. I contacted AIDS about 3 years later. I believe you can get AIDS from tattooing because it's involved with needle and blood. If it comes from needle, it's the only needle I've gotten outside of the needles we get from the medical staff when we're classified first coming in.
The causes may be uncertain. The effects create a current of fear among prisoner and jailer alike. On the AIDS ward, medical ignorance and human terror conspire.
I guess 90% won't like to work here every day. Because you don't know, there's no true facts yet on how it's transmitted yet. You know, they said the only way it gets transmitted is through sexual contact, but they don't know if it could be transmitted through breath or coughing or something like that.
An officer threatened to, he got gowned and masked up and got a lead pipe, wrapped it with tape, and threatened to kill anybody that came next to him. Another incident, an officer threatened, because he used to work up here during the time we had a riot, and he threatened to shoot me in the head as soon as he got the post, my hospital room assignment. You know, so like I said, the attitudes vary depending on the officer that works up here.
But even the hopeless cases cling to the dream of release and early parole, dying to leave, though they know they would be leaving to die.
I committed the crime I committed. I've done my time in jail. And I feel that I should be paroled.
How much left of your sentence is there?
5 months. I've lasted 6 years, so I guess I can last 5 more months. We've only had 3 instances of early paroles. 3 instances that were granted. 2 of them died before they were paroled. Only 1 of them has made it out. So there's been very little sympathy shown.
We try to have an atmosphere that is as comfortable as possible. We have even allowed inmates, loved ones, to be in the infirmary to stay overnight during the last days when we could not get an inmate into the hospital. So we try to have as humane a setting as we can. But yes, many inmates will die incarcerated from AIDS.
I just want one more chance. That's all I'm asking for. My family's asking for one more chance too, you know? What are we gonna have to do for me to get out? They gotta pay money or what? I ain't gonna give AIDS to nobody. I'm gonna be in my house. You know who's gonna take care of me? My mother.
I understand the reluctance of many members in society to having AIDS patients return to the community. Here we have inmates who have already been antisocial back into the community. So there are 2 reasons for this reluctance, both because they're criminals and because they have AIDS that can spread to others.
And that's it for now. Till next week, when with, let's hope, a more cheerful programme, we'll see you out of court. Meanwhile, from both of us, good night.